What is happening, everybody? Welcome to episode number 28 of the Bards of Gaming podcast, where this week I am sitting down with a good buddy of mine to discuss Batman Arkham Asylum, as you have seen in the title and all of the posts that I have made leading up to this episode. I am very excited to finally bring you this episode. This one has been a long time coming, and it's just been absolutely insane what I've tried to go through getting this episode out. It's just been my fault, 100%. That's been, setback after setback after setback. And as you'll hear in the beginning of this episode, originally I was supposed to do this with two friends. I was trying to get my buddy Nick on here, who did the Star Wars Battlefront episode with me, as well as my buddy Parker, who did the Spider-Man episode with me. But scheduling as adults to get three people in the same room at the same time, well, same Discord server at the same time, proves to be difficult. So regardless, I decided to split up the guests for the episodes, and today I just had my buddy Parker on. So we had a great time talking about this absolutely legendary game, and you will hear all about it, our love, our disdain, what we think of it now, which is good. Don't go lighting the pitchforks on fire yet. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say in this intro. Everything's been pretty good. I mean, things are going well. This is just another episode of the Video Game Journal. So thank you all for joining. Thank you all for the love and support, and I very much appreciate your time. If you do enjoy what you hear here, please feel free to give me a follow on Instagram at @TheBardsOfGaming or Twitter or X at 2BardsOfGaming with the number 2. You can find all links to my socials as well as my email if you'd like to shoot me an email, as well as links to any merchandise you'd care to purchase to support. I would very much appreciate it. So you can find all of that at thebardsofgamingpodcast.com. So if you have any questions, concerns, feedback, love, hate, whatever, please feel free to shoot a message my way, and I would love to talk games with you. So anyway, on with the show. All right, sorry everybody. Before we get into things, I'm going to splice this in right here because I actually totally forgot to add in listener comments. And Bucky has plenty of comments, but she will save them for after I'm recording. The one comment that I did get from listeners is from my buddy Aeon Driver Gaming, who is also a friend of the podcast. And he said that Arkham Asylum, a very solid game, Rocksteady did some good work. And I 100% agree. You will hear all my thoughts in the episode coming up. So please enjoy. All right, this week, welcome. We are back. It is episode number 28. I am here with my buddy Parker, who is a returning guest. Parker, how you doing?
Good, sir. How are you this fine Sunday afternoon?
I am fantastic, as long as my legs don't give out. And this week, we are going to be discussing Batman Arkham Asylum, which has been long on the cut to be covered, and I have been putting it off like a bozo. I promised you this episode like a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Having your own show and having your own professional life, things can get in the way. So I'm not holding any grudges.
I appreciate that, man. And originally this was this was supposed to be a two guest episode. So it was supposed to be you and my buddy Mancini,
right?
Who also played this game for the first time like last year. And scheduling was just too much of a nightmare, so I said, fuck it. But
yeah.
So this game, I mean, I don't know if you've listened to the most recent couple episodes, but this show kind of took a pivot creatively, sort of. It's the same shit, but it's kind of just more like a gaming journal for us, for me and my buddies, which is one of you, and which is you, but it's just gonna be the same format, but I don't know. It's just more laid back, I guess. I'm not really trying to push for anything, so let's just have fun with it. But
yeah, dude.
As we did before with Spider-Man and God of War, which you covered with me. If anybody listened to those episodes, you would remember him. I typically like to start with talking about what we don't like about the game, and then just kind of moving on to what we like about the game. And spoilers will be kind of held towards the end. But this is just our discussion. But I like to always start out these conversations with, how did you first find this game? Like, what was your introduction to Batman Arkham Asylum?
So my let's just say my introduction to the Arkham franchise was actually Arkham City, and it's
It's a good
unfortunate.
intro.
I mean, yeah, it's there's no way around it. It's a phenomenal intro. But with that, I can have a more distinct, I guess, kind of negative comment towards Arkham Asylum, in comparison to Arkham City, because the gameplay obviously just expands from year to year. But
Yeah.
so, like I said, my introduction was through Arkham City when back in, I think it was our junior year of high school. My brother and I got gifted a PlayStation 3 for the household,
Okay.
and it was the PlayStation 3. I think it was the Pro version, the one where the disc changer was like on top and the opening like slid to the side.
Oh.
I honestly forget what model PlayStation 3 it was, but that was the style it was. And it came with Batman Arkham City and one of the Uncharted games, whatever one came out that year or close to that year.
Oh,
Yeah. So then once college came, like 2 years later, and I was out in Ohio, I got myself a Xbox 360 through another high school classmate of ours, Joey,
okay.
and and then as soon as I bought the Xbox off of him, that day I went to GameStop, and Arkham Asylum was the first game I grabbed.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So that was there. That's how I got to Arkham Asylum, and I've loved this franchise so goddamn much, dude. Like it's hard to bash talk it because like there's so little wrong with them.
Dude, I'm really inclined to agree with that statement. I mean, like you said in the beginning, like after having played, Arkham City, Origins Night, and even the most recent Spider-Man games, like it is difficult to go back to this one. So like there are some things that I'll cover in my dislikes about this game. Like I can't call this one a perfect game, but
True.
that's mostly based on what we have in today. So
Exactly.
I mean, that's a great story for like how you got introduced to the franchise. I mean, I personally I was just introduced to this back in like 2010, I think.
Okay.
So it was kind of like around the time that it came out because I think this game came out in 2009, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I pulled up the Wikipedia just to just to have some sort of note into it, and yeah, it says release was August 25th of 09.
Okay, yeah, because I remember
Yeah.
I went over to my one buddy's house who the same buddy Pat who I covered Uncharted with.
Okay.
He introduced me to this game, and we ended up. I remember we were hanging out in his older brother's room, and we played the challenge mode. We went back and forth on the challenge mode,
Okay.
like for hours. Like I was so taken aback by this game, like in the way that it played. It was, I mean, at the time I had an Xbox only for like a year or two. I was mostly a Nintendo kid growing up, and
Okay.
like playing something like that I gotta say, this game, and I'll cover this more when we get into what we like about it, but this game really did completely revolutionize
Mm-hmm.
the industry. Like back then,
100%. 100%.
we would not have a lot of the games we have and the gameplay that are in them if it wasn't for this. Like the parry system that this game created just fucking exploded in the industry.
Yes, it did. Yeah. It definitely, I can 100% agree that it's definitely changed the way combat style, RPG, I guess you could say video games have developed in the past almost 10 years, or almost, let's say even almost 20, because we're closer to 2029 than we are in 2009. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something that's scary to think about. Don't remind me of that.
It really is, dude. We're getting old.
I mean, like I sometimes I like to sit and think. I mean, like for any of those older heads that listen to this show, and you're gonna laugh at me when I say this, but like you and I graduated in 2014, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was just a couple of years ago, and then I'm like, wait a minute.
Holy shit! No, it wasn't. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I hate growing up.
Oh, dude. Like, side note, when I was working at my last company, I did a lot of jobs because I work on doors,
Right.
and I work in that industry, entrance and security, but when I was working at my last job and I was working with my dad, and sometimes we had a lot of accounts for school districts, and so we would
Right.
go to like high schools and stuff to do their doors all throughout the school.
Okay.
And the first couple times that I would go into these schools in this industry when I was like 23, I just remember looking at the kids that were like seniors, and I'm
Yeah.
like, these are children. I'm like, when did this happen to me? I'm like, why?
Right. Yeah, dude. It's
But
crazy what they're putting in the milk these days.
oh my God. But anyway, back to Batman.
Yes.
So
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 tell
you
me, what are some of your dislikes that you've got written down on the game? That way
well,
I can figure out where my dislikes actually lie.
okay, yeah, that's fair. I wrote down only a few. The last one I'll kind of save till we get to the end of this conversation. But the first one that I wrote down is kind of something I touched on, reflecting on it already. But it is extremely basic by today's
Yes.
standards.
Right.
Back then, I understand that, a lot of the aspects of this gameplay were revolutionary. I mean, if you look at some of the Batman games from the past, like I don't know if you ever played Batman Begins on like the
Uh,
PlayStation 2.
no, I had a friend who had it, and I never got a chance to.
Okay, well that game was very not combat oriented. It was very gadget oriented, which
Okay.
I mean, granted, I thought was great. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the Batman Begins game, based on the Christopher Nolan movie.
Right.
But taking kind of the concepts that they implemented into that game, the mechanics of all the gadget usage and stuff, they put that into this game, it seems, but they added a very proper combat. So
Yeah.
back then, it was revolutionary. It was amazing. You had what, 9 gadgets that you could, free roam around this map with, and find different ways to use them on different things, find secret hidden areas in your second vision and whatever. But like playing it today after playing Spider-Man and Batman Arkham City and Arkham Knight and whatever, it's like it's very slow.
It does, yeah. It moves very slow, and it also it almost feels like having the experience of all its predecessed games already. Yeah, it definitely feels like there's something not there.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I will absolutely give this game its roses, because one thing that my buddy Nick, who was the other person who was going to join us, pointed out to me is that this game was actually made in Unreal Engine 3.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
wow! Oh, that's right. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking back to whenever I booted up, yeah, it doesn't even say from Rocksteady. It just says from Unreal Engine 3. Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, games were being made in Unreal Engine 4 when this game came out.
No shit.
So they used a relatively outdated engine at the time. And I mean, the game looks phenomenal.
Right. Yeah.
Like it came out kind of midlife of the Xbox 360, PS3 generation.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
And I mean, get into it more later, but like, yeah, it just, I do give this game its flowers absolutely for that alone. But yeah, it is very basic by today's standards and very slow.
Mm-hmm.
I could jump into another dislike unless you got one.
Go for it. No,
all right.
let me hear them.
The other one, to kind of coincide with the slow pacing of the game, even though the game's pacing from a game designer standpoint is actually very good. Like it doesn't, there's not a whole lot of crazy peaks and valleys. Like it's not, super fast paced at one point and then super slow. Like it kind of keeps its steady pace.
Right.
But there is one thing that I did not like about that pacing and the way that they designed it, and understandably for what the map is, but there is a lot of backtracking. There's
a lot of go here, then go here, now go back to here kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was playing this game a little bit before, like I played it like 6 months ago.
Okay.
To when I was originally planning on recording this, but
right.
I made it to the point where Poison Ivy gets set free, and now the one terrarium or whatever the fuck building is like overrun with vines and gas and shit, and you're about to go find Killer Croc. And I remember like finding like making my way through the like through whatever Arkham West it was or whatever the fuck, and then getting into that building and then getting, past all these enemies, getting past all the traps, getting past all this shit, and then making it to the NPCs that you need to talk to. And then they were just like, "Oh, great. Thank you. Now go back through all of that to the other side of the island and then go downstairs and find Killer Croc's lair." And I was like, "Nope, I'm done. I'm done. That's it." Like that was the end of it for me because I've already beaten the game once before and I just did not care.
Yeah, it is a lot of you hit the nail on the head with the backtracking. That can get very tiresome and that can draw a person out of a game any day of the week. Yeah.
It became very apparent that I was playing a video game. It's like
right.
They were trying to find ways to pad out the time, it seemed. It's like you guys have, sorry, I'm cleaning bird poop off my shoulder. But like you guys have this whole island that you can play with. You have created labyrinths within this island. You have created so many phenomenal ways to traverse this island.
Mm-hmm.
Why not give me a fucking sewer grate right there?
Yeah. Right. Like, well, why you gotta make it so difficult?
Yeah, there is a secret bat cave through a waterfall on the other side of this island. Why can't you give me a sewer grate and a loading screen? I would not be mad. But like, it's just the backtracking. Just that killed me. That stopped my gameplay.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well, for sure. All right. So what else you got? I know you say you didn't have many dislikes, but what else?
Well, the only other one that I have before we're gonna move on is kind of again going along with the backtracking and trying to find where you have to go for next missions and stuff like that is I thought that the map was a little unintuitive. Now this is kind of just my personal take.
Okay.
I understand that it was great having a map, and I did like the way that they kind of like showed where your next objective was and stuff like that, but it felt that it didn't really tell me a whole lot. Like there were times where I was a bit confused on where to go, and there was really nobody for me to talk to. I couldn't chime into Oracle to give me a reminder of where to go next, and it was kind of like, I would walk from say Arkham East all the way to Arkham West, and then thinking that because this guy said one thing that I had to go to this other area. And, only to realize that, oh, wait, no, the building that's here is actually back in Arkham East, and I have to go all the way back. And I don't know, I wasn't a big fan of the map. I thought that it could have been done a little bit better, but what do I know?
Yeah, it could. See, and that's the thing is that it's, in comparison to different games, obviously, because it's, you got to have some sort of just touch of life. Thinking the Arkham Asylum map in relation to the island of Manhattan in Spider-Man 1 versus even Spider-Man 2. And, don't mean to say anything spoiler-wise about Spider-Man 2, but clearly, as some people should know, there is the fast travel option in Spider-Man 2 and compared to the fast travel that they have in Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
And with Arkham Asylum, it's a big map and it's very detailed. And obviously, like you said, there's the different sub-levels and all these different labyrinths of mazes that you can travel just within building to building. But like the map's not big enough to warrant a fast travel. So that's, that's the downside to it, is that because of that, we unfortunately have to do the foot travel of, oh, well, you go here, but now because you look at the map and the map is angled to be at this design, but like you view it via the gameplay of the screen and it's on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So it can.
And there were times where like I feel like I would get lost trying to find my next objective. Like there were times. So again, from a design standpoint, like this game had ways to always try to direct you in the direction of your next objective. Whether it
Right.
be, oh, I'm following a DNA trail from this character, or oh, I'm following this guy's fucking cigar breath, or whatever it is. I thought that was fine, well and good. It wasn't all the time though. There were times where
Right.
you had to go from one objective to the next, like trying to find Killer Croc's lair, where it didn't really tell you where to go, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I don't remember this
Right.
exactly, but I just remember like it told me that I had to backtrack, and I backtracked for about a minute, and I was like, I don't know where exactly I have to go. I'm done.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought that it would have been kind of cool. Now, again, I don't know. Maybe this is just limited hardware. Nobody thought of this. I don't know. But you know how like there's a lot of games where like think of the Fable franchise if you ever played it, um, where like you follow a shimmering golden trail that kind of tells you what direction to walk in.
Okay.
I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if this game did something that was kind of like that, but a little bit more on theme? Like, say maybe you're standing out in a courtyard and you're not exactly sure what building you have to go into next. What if like a small swarm of bats flew across the screen in the direction of where you have to go?
Yeah, they could have done that, and honestly, they did do that to a point in Arkham City and maybe even in Arkham Origins, where as long as you were quote unquote tracking, the next objective of the game, which obviously there is the side missions you can do, but like I remember for sure in Arkham City that each new objective to advance the story, if you looked out on like just like scoped the long view of the whole game, you would see like a Batman spot, the bat signal spotlight.
Oh, really?
So yeah. Because now that I have the Return to Arkham package on my PlayStation, I bounce back and forth between Asylum and City every once in a while.
Okay.
So yeah, so they definitely involved that in the coming games, but it would have made a lot more sense, especially for how the map was laid out and designed. It would have made a lot more sense to have that in Arkham Asylum as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The map felt very like, I don't know.
it
There
felt
was
basic.
it did. And I don't know if
Yeah.
this is just me looking back on it now from today's standards, because like, I don't remember exactly how I felt playing this game 15 years ago, but I can tell you what, it left an impression on me. It was
Of
amazing.
course.
I loved it.
Yeah. Right.
But there's yeah, like the map, there's a lot of ups and downs, ins and outs, and yeah, you can always open up the map for whatever room you're in. It's not just like the super stupid map of just the overworld. So, but it's at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I just didn't really care for it.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I can agree to that too. It wasn't well thought out.
yeah. But let's get into what we actually like about the game, because I'm sure that that's going to greatly outweigh what we don't like about the game.
Oh, for sure. Well, for starters, on my end, just you gotta love the classics, and you gotta love the fact that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, respectively, are voicing, Batman and the Joker within this video game.
Dude,
For
yes.
and for those of the viewers that don't know, and obviously it will get touched, it can get touched on when Rob here decides to, do the Arkham Origins episode. But in Arkham Origins, the Batman and the Joker are not voiced by Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
So
That's also the only game in the franchise that was not done firsthand by Rocksteady.
very true, yes. And even though it's an origin story, it's the second in the franchise. So like that's another thing that everyone always bitches about. It's like, why would they make the origins? Why would they make an origin style game the second game? Why not make it the first game? Who
Third,
fucking
actually.
cares? Yeah, true. Even still, it was the third game. That's right.
Yeah, I agree. And that game, I mean, I liked that game. I never beat it, but I feel like it is a bit underrated. Like, yeah, people shit on it all the time because it didn't have, the voice actors of Batman and the Joker. But it had a lot of, I feel like, another thing that I'm going to talk about with my likes for this one, but it had a lot of deep cuts for the Batman
Mhm.
lore.
It
You
definitely
know,
did. All of the assassins that got brought in for Arkham Origins, definite deep cuts. Yeah, and to me, the way, and obviously we're now talking about a separate game, but just to say it for argument's sake, the Batcave in Arkham Origins is badass as fuck. And the way that the fast traveling occurs between wanting to go to the Batcave and then wanting to go back into Gotham is impressive as fuck. So
Yeah.
hats off to the non-Rocksteady game.
Yeah. Yeah, just because it's not Rocksteady doesn't mean they didn't do a rocking job.
Exactly.
But yeah, like with Arkham Asylum, I mean, even being the first in the franchise, like I loved that. And now I've never been one to read the comics, but
Okay.
I grew up, watching the Batman cartoon. I grew up playing some other Batman games and stuff. And there's a lot of the franchise a lot of the media that you find for Batman games and movies and TV and stuff like that, they don't touch on even a fraction of what they have in the comics. But this game was the first one, I think, that really started to talk about or even bring up some of these enemies and some of these other characters that you would really never hear about. And the fact that you could unlock and find an actual whole bio page about that character and a whole info page. Like, I remember there's one point where you're walking around the map and there's so many different things to analyze and so many hidden things to find in the map. And I came across a cell for what was it, Calendar Man or whatever?
Yes,
and I'm like,
yes.
Who the fuck even talks about him? Like, you'll never hear about him in the movies. You'll never hear about him outside of the comics, I feel like. But he's here.
Yeah,
at least they mentioned him.
Yeah, right. And then I know, like, I literally was playing it this morning, like, because I told you last night when we were texting, I was going to do a little extra research just for arguments. And there's a scene where I'm in, like, the main Arkham mansion, and a riddle popped up on the screen because obviously, as you know, and as some people will know, for the Arkham Asylum game, in order to answer and collect the collectible for each riddle, you almost have to, like, screenshot the page with the detective, or screenshot the screen of what you're looking at in detective mode. And there was a riddle about a cat and a mouse, and as you're in the Arkham mansion, you're looking around and it's almost like there's trophy cases of certain villains equipment. Like, you see there's a pistol for Two-Face, you see a trick umbrella from Penguin, and then the answer for the cat and mouse is something about Catwoman, and there's a display case that's Catwoman's goggles and one of her, like, long black gloves with the claws on it. So that I love going along with what you said about the lore of it, is that I love that even though the characters aren't even there, they still get introduced somehow.
Yeah, like, dude, they paid homage to so many characters, good
Definitely.
and bad, that you would never ever hear about in the movies.
Right.
And, like, so many people only ever know Batman and DC comics from the movies, which I'm so sorry because I hate those movies. But the way that they did it in this game was so beautiful, I think.
Definitely. One of my other favorite parts to the game is the learning who Archimedes Arkham is, which is that that's another little side quest you're doing where you gotta scan the little talismans and it pops up and it, like, gives a recording of his story. Now, I've beaten the game once through, like, I beat it all the way through on Xbox 360, but I never got a chance to finish finding all of those Secrets of Arkham tablets. So I don't know how the story completely unfolds, but that is cool that they, whether this character is lore from comics from way back in the day, or they just created the character for the video game itself. But, like, even giving the lore of Arkham Asylum a little more depth is always is heartwarming as a comic book fan to me.
Dude, absolutely. And I mean, like, there's so many things. Another thing that I have written down here is and I'm just going to keep it fluid and going with it. But, like, what you're saying is, like, there are so many things to analyze on the island, off the island. Like, I remember one of the ones that blew my mind was getting on top of one of the rooftops. I forget where exactly on the island, but you could look off, because you're on an island, and you could
Right.
look off. You see the city of Gotham, the skyline across the water, and you could
Yep.
literally just look at Wayne Tower and scan that, and it gives you a special thing, and you're like, oh my
True.
god,
Right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
like it opens up your mind to be like, there could literally be shit everywhere.
Exactly.
And not for
Yeah.
nothing too, but like, the Riddler trophies, like a lot of the Riddler puzzles, there's one of my I mean, the Riddler trophies I'll save for a minute, but like one of my favorite Riddler style puzzles in this game is the perspective puzzles, when you had to try to find where you see, like, you go into your detective vision, and you see that there's like some green paint on the wall, and you're
Yep.
trying to figure out exactly where you have to stand and look in order to get the question mark for the Riddler to line up on the screen. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, that is a nice touch because it excuse me. Yeah, it adds just to the overall deception of life, when it comes to how these characters are portrayed. And you always think, well, all throughout life, aside from Jim Carrey's excellent portrayal of the Riddler to me has always been kind of a lame ass character. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But like in the Arkham franchise, they turned him into this like obsessive compulsive egotistical maniac who like needs to prove that he's always the smartest one in the room. And I love that about the Riddler because it turned him from this quirky dorky dude that wears vibrant green question marks all over his body to then being this sadistic, I'll kill anyone just to prove my fucking point kind of person.
Yeah. Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
and you said it perfectly. Like you're out here solving his puzzles because he always has to try to prove that he is the smartest one in the room, but he is doing these puzzles against the world's greatest detective. That is Batman's shtick.
Damn
Like,
fucking right.
and these really are the first games that really played into him holding that title, because I mean, you look at the Christopher Nolan movies, which fantastic, but
Yes.
you look at the the Michael Keaton, you look at the George Clooney. I mean, I recommend you don't look at the George Clooney one, but you look at all the Batman movies that have come out to this point, and what do they not really focus on? Him
They don't
being the world's
focus
greatest detective.
right. They don't focus on the detective work.
Yeah, and like that's what he is. So
Right.
yes, he's an ass kicker. Yes, he does, he has all these other great things about him, but these games, they finally put you in the cockpit and they say, here's a bunch of gadgets.
Right.
Here's a bunch of puzzles. Here's
Yep.
a bunch of riddles and things that you need to figure out. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. And like to me, the number one, the big is the detective mode.
Yeah.
That whole aspect of the Batman franchise blew me away to the point where, like, when I first started playing Arkham City, and then once I got into Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum, like I almost religiously only played the game in detective mode, mainly just because whether it's with the Riddler, with like certain Riddler's riddles, or with what you're doing to try and be stealthy about it, or just to know where your enemies are. That detective mode just adds that extra cherry on top of a perfect Sunday. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's so cool to literally watch a character on a screen turn from a fully colorized, fully muscular, thugged out, henchman into a walking, glowing skeleton that has the exact same movements as once you go back to full color screen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that transition was just so beautiful that it made me want to be the Batman and to
Oh yeah.
analyze that first person at all times.
Yeah. And dude,
Yeah.
the way that they did that was mind blowing for the time. And
Right.
like that, and let's, I mean, I'm gonna pivot this a little bit into talking about another thing here, but
Go ahead.
the combat, that was an
Right.
essential part of the combat, and these games were, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like the first ones that really created the mechanic for sitting on a gargoyle and scoping out a room, seeing where all
Mhm.
your enemies are at one time, marking them on your fucking screen, and then picking them off one by one. I thought,
Right.
holy shit, that was my favorite part of this game. I didn't care much for the hand-to-hand combat. I mean, I love the stealth missions. Even in all the Batman Arkham games, in the Spider-Man games, that is like, I always try to pride myself on taking out an entire room of enemies without setting off an alarm.
Right, without making a single fucking peep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that they definitely were the pioneers with Arkham Asylum on that. Yeah, and just to reinvoke how incredible this is, like it again blew my mind sideways when whether I think it's like one of the first missions in Arkham or in Arkham Asylum where Joker and his henchmen take this woman by the name of Doctor Young, and you're in like a chapel house or whatever, and yeah, again, you're bouncing through these gargoyles, picking them off one by one. That it gives you that real feel of if I were a superhero, I could fucking do it.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
it's crazy that like this game almost feels like it's adaptive to your play style. Like I understand it's coded, scripted, whatever, but it's like, after what we experienced with Resident Evil 4 back in the day with like how the game adapts to your play style, it almost felt like that with this because like if you're doing a lot of, gargoyle hanging and stuff like that, then a little bit later on in the game they actually start rigging the gargoyles with C4.
That's
And like
right. Yeah.
and if you're on one for too long, or if you get one on one in general, whatever, it blows up, and it tells the enemy exactly where you are, and then it's like, okay, now we see that you're stealthing a lot of these enemies, so we're gonna put alarm collars on them, and if we detect that their heart rate drops to zero or whatever resting heart rate, then we're gonna set off the alarm and call in reinforcements. Like the game adapts over time;
Right.
it becomes more difficult in a very good way.
Right, exactly. It gives you that challenge of, oh my god, the bad guys are on my tail.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not just how, a lot of games are where it's like, okay, here's your grunt enemy, okay, here's your medium intermediate difficulty enemy, and then here's your brute. No, this is like we're going to give you a bunch of different options. Like we're going to give you those, don't get us wrong, but we're going to start off with grunts with their fists, and then we're going to
Yep.
give the grunts guns, and then we're going to give everybody explosives, and then we're going to put you up against mini Banes, and then we're going to put alarm collars on people. Then we're going to blow shit up around you so you can't play the way that we've taught you to play.
All right.
So you have to constantly adapt your play style to the different challenges that they put in front of you. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. 100% fantastic. Could not agree more.
Like that's what I was saying earlier, like they don't have it, when it comes to their design of the game and their pacing. They don't have these crazy peaks and valleys. Like you're always gonna have it. You're in every game. You're gonna have your peak of like, okay, here's a climactic moment, and then you're gonna have a valley of rest afterwards, and then you're gonna build yourself up to another battle, and then another rest afterwards. That's just game design 101. But
Of course.
the way that this game does it, it doesn't make it feel like you're constantly at a high and constantly at a low. You're having an even progression of difficulty throughout it as it adapts to your play styles, and it adapts to, you have to adapt to it becoming more difficult. Like they don't just throw you, like if you ever played Far Cry 3.
I have not. No, I never got into the Far Cry games.
So Far Cry 3, in my opinion, is the best one in the franchise. However,
Okay.
there's two islands in Far Cry 3. There's island number 1, which is where like 80% of the gameplay takes place. And trust me, anybody who's listening to this, I'm going somewhere with this. But on the first island, you start off hunting, or fighting regular enemies, just regular Joe Schmoes with pistols, shotguns, machine guns, whatever. Then you move your way up to some harder enemies, more armored enemies, whatever. And then all of a sudden you get and it's a pretty even paced game. But then all of a sudden you get put to this second island where now you have like no cover. Now everybody is an elite, super high armored enemy, and it's just like you hit this plateau of like now the game is super difficult and it's going to remain that way until you're done.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean, granted, again, phenomenal game, but that is kind of where I think Batman did not go, because they don't give you that we're going to ramp it up to 10 and leave it there. They give you an up and a down, but they keep your difficulty. It hits its top peak of difficulty right when it should, right at the end of the game, final fight, you're done.
Right. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Yeah. I can again agree to all of that, because that was worded perfectly, sir.
Thanks.
So what else you got? What else can we, or what else should we talk about?
What should we talk about? One thing that I have written down here is I did very much appreciate the way that they showed your, how do I put this? Like, the more damage you take throughout the game, like, you do not look the same at the beginning of this game than you do at the end.
Yeah, the overall cosmetic progression. Yeah,
like,
I like that too.
This game does a good job at kind of like showing the wear and tear that Batman is taking throughout this adventure. Like, he's not, like, this is a game where, like, the theme of it is you're trapped, essentially.
You're trapped and you got bare minimum to work with.
Yeah, like, you are stuck on Arkham Island. Like, I mean, granted, you're Batman, you're never stuck. But
exactly,
you're on a mission. You have people you have to rescue. The island is locked down. It has been overrun, taken over by the prisoners, by some of the worst, most psychopathic, diabolical people that have ever lived in Gotham. They're now on the loose. They run the prison. You're trapped.
Yep.
And you start this game, as Batman. You're the, king shit. You're the one that, you clean cut. You got a nice fit, dude. And by the end of the game, you're ragged. Your cape's torn. You're bleeding. You got cuts on your leg. You're cut up.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
Yeah, definitely. And it's what was I gonna say? It's the overall just design of the bat suit too. To me, gives a very Batman the Animated Series feel to it.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's not overly. It's not. It's not. I don't want to say flamboyant in like a negative connotation. It's it's not popping crazy. It's not a crazy design that looks so modernistic, of the time frame being the year 2009, but it's got that very homey, this is a dude who's been doing this a couple years and he knows what works for him kind of bat suit, and
I feel like it's the perfect hybrid between, like, the old Batman with, the standard colored suit, a cape, and a utility belt, and the super ultra militant version of, like, Christian Bale's Batman. It's a good middle ground. I agree.
Definitely, yeah. And to me, like, I loved. This may sound weird, and some people may get it, but like, I love the big fucking ears on his cowl. Like the fact that they go as long off the head as they do. It's like, because no matter where you are in gameplay, whether you're in a building or you're outside on the on Arkham Island, anytime you see that shadow, that is a very menacing Batman shadow.
Yeah, dude, it's iconic.
Exactly. It's the iconic shadow that you see right before your jaw gets sent into another atmosphere.
Yo, did you ever see those videos that have been like a recent meme format where it's like this guy is like making fun of the goons in the Batman Arkham games, where it's like
the famous last words. Batman, yeah. Oh, dude, I've been pissing myself anytime I watch those, and I'll watch one clip on rotation like 30 times before I stop laughing.
Dude, they're so funny. It's like Batman ain't never gonna see me coming. Batman did in fact see him coming, and this man sees nothing anymore.
He hit Tony so hard after he reset his brain. He starts preschool on Tuesday.
That's so good.
the other one was like, I ain't afraid of you, Bat. And it was like the second Louis ran into the Batman, he shit his pants so hard that his pants like melted to his legs or whatever the hell.
Dude, the first one you said is just so good.
Yeah.
Starts preschool next week.
He starts preschool on Tuesday. little sidebar to that. I just saw that same dude because it's a black guy who's like wearing like a shower cap or whatever. He just started doing reels like that, but instead of thugs getting beat up by Batman, it's regular everyday citizens getting beat up by Power Rangers.
Oh my God,
dude! I'll have to find it on Instagram and send it to you later because it had me rolling on the floor.
Definitely, I'm gonna see if I could try to find that guy's videos and link it in the description of this podcast.
Yes,
like the one. Send me the one about Batman because like dude, you sent me those like a couple weeks ago. I was crying, dude. They're so funny.
Oh yeah, and anybody who's played these video games and you can almost hear each thug saying certain things. Like this guy does like 4 different reels he made. He was pulling direct quotes from the game, and like anytime he'd read something, he'd be like, "Oh, that was a Two-Face guy," or "Oh, that was a Penguin goon," or whatever. And it's good business. Let's just put it like that.
Dude, and I gotta say, another thing that I really like about this game, going off of exactly what you're saying right there, is like each goon, it seems, has like personalities, and the fact that you can sit on top of a gargoyle and listen to some of these goons have like long conversations about what are their vacation plans once they get out, are they going to get back together with their wife, when is their little guy starting kindergarten, and it's like hear the it really makes the world feel lived in, and it's like you can really hear that the developers put a lot of love into this game, in giving so much detail, because you could just have goons that are just standing there being boring, being like, let me know if you see the bats. Oh, let me know. Whatever. But it's like, no, like these guys, like they're having idle conversation as you approach.
Exactly. Yeah. And even, it could be, like you said, as simple as them talking about their personal lives to as insane as them talking about their professional lives. Like, oh my God, did you hear what Holly did to Archie the other day when he spoke out of turn? She set the dogs on him and he cried for about 2 weeks. Like it's a great touch of lore, and it just, it gives that sense of real life.
Definitely. It makes this game feel so immersive, I think. And it's like
100%. And even as someone, if for anyone out there listening that hasn't played any of these games yet, do yourself a favor and get on it, because you'll fall in love at Arkham Asylum, and the love is going to grow and grow once you hit Arkham Origins, you hit Arkham City, and then once you get to Arkham Knight, because my Lord, it's just been such an amazing franchise. And dude, I remember, like, not to get too off tangent, but my first run through on Batman Arkham Knight, oh buddy, I could have just cried tears of joy.
I've never played that one.
Oh, Robert, you are killing me, Smalls. Arkham Knight, the masterpiece of the franchise. Like, it in my opinion, and maybe other people can agree, maybe people can disagree. Everyone has their own opinion. But in my opinion, Arkham Knight finished off this franchise so beautifully that it deserves every game award for the next 50 years, if you ask me. Because the graphics, beautiful. The gameplay, beautiful. The backstory, beautiful. It's just, and like Gotham City is so in depth in comparison to, let's say, Arkham Origins, because that is a map of Gotham City. It's just a very condensed map of Gotham City compared to Arkham Knight. Yeah. And like Arkham Knight, the overall map layout, you're viewing the map in the pause screen or transversing the map as the player, it gives hardcore in-depth feels to the newest Spider-Man 1 and 2 games. It's just every building you can touch, every the ratios of just the heights of these buildings and how you're going to travel between those buildings and on top of those buildings. It just everything works perfectly in all of these Batman games. Like I could never ever. You could hold a gun to my head and say something bad, and I'd pull that fucking trigger. There's nothing coming out of this old boy's mouth that's gonna sully the reputation of these games.
Yeah, no, dude, I absolutely agree with everything that you said about like the progression of these games and the scale of them and everything like that. And I will say to anybody interested in playing these games, do not start with Origins. Start with Asylum.
Yep. Yeah, I should have led with that for sure.
It's all good. I mean, if they didn't get it by what we were saying earlier in our dislikes, this is probably the only Arkham game where I have anything bad to say about it. And it's only really because the games later have gotten so much better. I mean, I cannot stress enough, this is not a bad game. This is a fucking awesome game. But difficult to go back to once you've played the future titles.
Exactly.
So what else do you like about this game, my friend?
I love the story to it. The fact that it opens up with Batman traveling to Arkham Asylum with Joker in tow to lock him up. Be like, well, I did it again. I've captured him, and now it's your job to keep him locked in here. But the fact that it within 35 seconds of you entering the building to then the Joker getting hauled away by maximum security, that moment occurs where it just clicks that, oh, this is exactly the type of trap that an insane clownish lunatic would create. And then from there, it opens up into this, hey man, we're gonna release all of the inmates and we're just gonna see what happens. And then from there, you then start to learn that, excuse me. Oh, sorry, indigestion. You learn that there's one specific psychiatric doctor that the Joker is looking for because she's the one that created or helped create the Titan formula, which is what gives Bane his insane strength and size.
Yeah.
And then going ahead and learning that the Joker wants to use this to mass produce henchmen, like, oh fuck. and going from that and learning, okay, this is what his plan is. We eventually need to try and stop this to, like you said before, going around the island, learning about these different characters, seeing where they're at in their lockup situation. And now that they're free of lockup and free of the guards, they're willing to do whatever they want to Batman because, hey, that's my nemesis too,
Absolutely. And to be fair, I mean, we should have probably seen this coming from the get-go because the one fucking officer that was tasked with bringing Joker in is the one officer that has a flask on his belt.
Yeah, I mean, come on. if there's anything that Hollywood media has taught us in the past 50 years is that dudes who drink on the job normally aren't that good of a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I loved the overall, being someone who's not artistically inclined, let's just say it like that. I love overall just design of how these characters look. Like Bane looks, in growing up, especially like in the George Clooney Batman and Robin movie, the way Bane looks is just like grotesquely, insanely huge with this gross skin color and this just want and need for pure destruction.
Yeah.
So like it's nice to see that, but then also the caveat to what we know from like the movie and what's shown in all the comics is that Bane is a very sound intellectual individual.
Oh, he's a
who
genius.
Exactly, he's a calculated genius. So being able to witness his overall story arc in this game, to then being able to defeat him just by fucking running him over with the Batmobile. It's a nice touch. To
Yeah.
me, it's a real nice touch.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Like, one thing that this game did that no other Batman game, I think, has done, at least not even close to this well, is just highlighting so many different enemies. I mean, yeah, we said earlier that, yeah, this game has some deep cuts. It's got some Batman character deep cuts, like, that you find referenced throughout the game, but there's a lot of enemies that you confront in this game as well. And like, was this the one with Mr. Freeze, or was that City?
No, Mr. Freeze is Arkham City.
Okay, never mind then. But you
Yeah.
have Poison Ivy, you have Bane, and my personal favorite is the Scarecrow sections. Oh my God.
Yeah. I was playing one of the nightmare sequences this morning, and those dude, I remember especially, because let's think of it this way: the first time I played Arkham Asylum was probably 2015, maybe 2016. Like, even as a younger dude, like, it's a very quote unquote fear inducing kind of game where, like, there's some jump scares to it, and if you're not accurate in your movements on that, you're fucking donezo.
It's genuinely unsettling at times, yeah.
It's yes, 100% unsettling. That's the word I was looking for.
And dude, like the section, I think it was the first real Scarecrow section that you encounter, like where it has the jump scare with your mom in the body bag or your dad in the body bag, whatever it was.
Yes.
That kind of like set the tone right there. Like, because that was
Definitely.
pretty early on too.
It was, yeah, because you're in like the medical wing of Arkham Asylum, like on the island.
Yeah.
And yeah, it turns out that he was like releasing a fear toxin into the game, into the building. And yeah, dude, I remember playing that and like not getting scared from it, but like thinking to myself, damn, that's eerie as fuck. Like, my dead mother just rose herself out of a body bag and was talking to me. Like,
Yeah.
if all of these things are real life and we were to actually, like, if I were to have to live through that, I'd be shitting my pants for a month.
Oh yeah.
Like,
And I mean, let's just
terrifying.
be honest about this. Like, I might get a little bit angry. I'm gonna rant for a minute here, but like Batman is by far my favorite DC superhero. And I kind of hate DC now. I grew up loving it, right? I was a big fan of Superman. I was a big fan of Batman, the two mains. And I loved to see what else they had. But within the last 10 years or so, DC has really done nothing that has sparked my interest. I mean, I've given them endless chances in the movies. I do not care about the TV shows, so I don't even bother trying to watch them. The games have taken such a hard fall off because, I mean, the Batman franchise, like, as phenomenal as it is, I feel so bad for Rocksteady that they had to come out with that stupid fucking Suicide Squad game. Now they're giving it away for free. You can't even give it
Yeah.
away for free. That thing sucked. Nobody asked for that, right? So Batman, though, is the one franchise that I think no matter what, it will always do somewhat well. They have not landed a really genuinely good Superman movie, I feel like, in quite a while. Even though I love Henry Cavill, the Man of Steel was but Batman does best when it's dark.
Right.
It thrives off of edgy grit. If you look at Batman back in the 60s with Adam West, it was very campy. It was for the time.
Of
But
course.
then you look at the movies from the 90s with Tim Burton's Batmans, and they were
Right.
kind of campy, but they were over the top, comic booky, very gothic. It made sense for Batman. But then you look at Christopher Nolan's movies, and they really nailed it.
Yes. 100%. They brought in that the overtone of evil is out there. It's just waiting to strike.
Yeah, And
Yeah.
the thing that I think really nails, it's what makes Batman the best DC superhero is he is the only one that I can think of anyway that is grounded in reality. He's he
100%.
he is the only superhero that we can all kind of see ourselves a little bit in. He's someone that we want to be, He like we understand we can never be Superman. We can never
Of
be the
course.
Flash. We can never be any of these godlike superheroes that are just, they're gods. That's what they are. They're fucking gods, essentially.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Batman is just a guy.
Right. He's just a dude with some money.
Yeah.
Like,
But he's a
and at some point or
genius.
another, we're all some dude with some money.
Yeah. But it's like, we see Batman. Batman can get his ass kicked. That's what makes it realistic.
Exactly.
He's a super genius. He's the world's greatest detective. He can solve these crimes. He's got a brain to him. So the fact that you now in these games have to put yourself into the cockpit of Batman, and now you have to solve these crimes. You have to be the detective. You have to use the gadgets. That's a hell of a lot more fun to play than, oh, I'm Superman. I can fly. I can have
Yeah.
heat vision. I can be a god. Like, I don't know. That's just me. I understand a lot of guys like to have that god complex in gaming, but I think that the Batman simulator that we were introduced to with Arkham Asylum really hit the nail on the head.
Definitely. Yeah. Just to reinforce what you're saying, it gives you that real feel of what would happen if I was Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my rant because I am so sick and tired of DC now and like anything that they do, or WB with everything that they do with the DC franchise.
Yeah.
I fucking hated Black Adam.
Yeah. I
Everything
didn't
that,
even watch it.
dude, it was so pandery. It was so hard to watch. Like, I know that this isn't a movie review podcast, but like
Right.
when I first started dating my girlfriend, we went out to see Black Adam, and because I was like, oh, it looks interesting. Like it's The Rock back when he actually had some credibility with me, and it was some things that I was like, oh, this kind of seems cool. I like a good anti-hero story. And then the first 20 minutes of the movie were okay. The next hour of the movie started to get pretty cringy. The last hour of the movie, I was like, I just want it to end. It
Really.
was so, they were trying to pander to every audience. Like there was a romance in the game that they were or in the movie that they were trying to force on us that I just didn't care about. Of course, the 12-year-old kid in the movie has to have a skateboard. Like coming from a skater, I think that's just cringy. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But
No.
like,
I
sorry.
agree to the fact that you're good. I'll agree to the fact that the media content has not been as good as it could have been the past 15 years. Obviously, this is us also comparatively thinking about all of the Marvel movies that have come out and, wanting to compare apples to apples or apples to donuts for that matter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's been on the more disappointing side, yeah, because as a comic fan, you want to see every hero get, or even just every villain as well, get represented in a not in a nice, but in like a solid, grounded kind of modern tone for whatever that may be. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know, like I don't want to pull into the different types of cultures of media and whatnot that could ruin things, but it just seems like DC has been trying too hard, and that's what caused them to flop.
They're trying too hard to cater to everybody, and by trying to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody.
Yes, 100%.
They need to stick to their guns.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I was just going to end that note by saying let's give James Gunn a chance, because James Gunn, for those who don't know, is the director of all 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but he's now also basically the Kevin Feige of DC movies that are upcoming for the next, let's say, 10 years. he really wants to try and create a media universe similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in a sense of like he just wants to put out good content of like everybody's favorite superheroes and supervillains. So like let's see what he's got, because if by my opinion, if he's going to do any sort of justice to this Superman movie in relation to like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I think he's going to fucking hit it out of the park, dude.
Dude, I hope he does a good job because I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I grew up loving Superman, loving Batman, and I mean, I'll always love Batman, but it's just like, what is that secret sauce that, the DC content, especially the Batman content, had around the time of like Arkham Asylum and whatnot? What was the secret ingredient that they had then that they just can't seem to nail now? I mean, if they can get the movie right, then that might lead to another, whole new franchise of games. And wouldn't you love to have a Superman game that's kind of like the Spider-Man games where like, oh, now I can live a double life as Clark Kent and be, I can have the Superman simulation where I can be Superman, when I need to be, but then also I'm trying to live, I think that would be great if they did something like that, like what they did with the Spider-Man games where you work at the Daily Planet, or maybe you're just, living on the farm, whatever age they decide to make you for the first game. It's like, that would be so much more interesting than just Superman gameplay all the time. We need
100%.
Yeah, like the whole reason why Superman is so the whole reason why Superman is so interesting is because, yeah, he is this god, but he's also trying so hard to remain normal.
Exactly. He doesn't want to embrace his godlike stature, but at the same time, he doesn't want to forget who he is and who he came from.
Yeah. Like we need to have games and characters and aspects of these things that are grounded in reality so that we can have something to relate to. I don't know.
Right.
That's just me. I 100% agree with what you're saying. We should give, James Gunn a chance. I'm very apprehensive, but I can't wait to see what happens.
Hell yeah, man. So what else is there any other specific topics you want to touch on when it comes to this game?
Well, the only one thing that I have that I would like to touch on is my one last dislike that I left for the end, because this is going to get into spoiler territory for anybody.
Okay.
If you haven't played the game, but my last dislike is the final fight.
Okay, let me hear why.
It's just, you work your whole way through this game fighting waves of enemies with playstyle, and you have so many Bane and Titan boss fights and mini boss fights and stuff that you've already gone through, and you've already been through a fight where you have to fight two Titans at once, and it's like you play your entire way through this game only to be faced with a Titan Joker.
Yeah.
It's kind of just anticlimactic, and I know that I'm beating a dead horse because there's a large section of video game reviewers and people that don't like this fight as well, but this is my opinion, and I just didn't care for it.
Yeah, it was. I remember on my first playthrough thinking to myself, well, that escalated rather quickly.
Yeah. It could have been done differently.
It could have been handled a lot different. But like at the same time, when if you're thinking about overall story, like it makes sense that the Joker would do something that fucking stupid, because like that's unpredictable. That's 100% against the 411, if you want to say, of super villainy, and for him to just set himself ablaze with this Titan serum and turn into this massive fucking gargantuan, Titan. It definitely that comic book vibe of, yep, there's a man dressed as a bat fighting a monster that could easily squash him in 0.3 seconds. But yet here we are holding our own against this massive monster.
Yeah. And I mean, I will give it this too. Like, if we didn't have the story and the fight play out the way it did, we wouldn't have the story that led into the next two games. Especially with, like, getting infected with the Joker blood and stuff like that. Like, it makes sense. I get it. It's just like, I don't know. I would have done it. I feel like
Yeah,
a little differently.
right. It could have been handled differently, but like you said, for what they were going for in 09, excuse me, it led quickly into Arkham City in 2013, and then even more.
2010.
Did it come out 2010?
Yeah.
I can't remember. So yeah, whenever Arkham City came out, oh yeah. Direct. Okay, it says right here on the Wikipedia page. It's actually 2011 is when Arkham City was released, I think. But yeah, it was a perfect tie-in for the story. It made that story so goddamn perfect because, the way things pan without getting into spoilers, because obviously there's more episodes to record on this lovely pod, but the way Joker is handled in Arkham City is mind-blowing because there are a handful of plot twists, and then even still how the Joker is, let's just say, represented in Arkham Knight is another reason to just absolutely love the franchise because it keeps that continuity consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're definitely right, and I do got to sit down and play Arkham Knight. But yeah, there is a lot of good. They kept the continuity going. They didn't jump from one thing to another and leave everything that they've built up to in the dust. Like they did a really good job with the games I have played. But you got anything else?
No, man. That the only thing I will say is if I'm rating this game out of 10, I got to give it a solid 8.5. And I only say that just because, I've played too much of its games to need, it can't be my number one because my number one is the others. You know what I mean?
The others, yeah.
Exactly. But no, I absolutely have always loved Arkham Asylum and the entire Arkham franchise. And if there's anyone out there listening that hasn't given these games a touch yet, get yourself in a position where you can just fucking jam out to these games and you will have the time of your life.
Absolutely. These, especially if you have even a slight like if you enjoy the Batman, IP at all, like you're gonna love it.
Oh yeah. If you're a Batman fan, you're gonna freak the fuck out even more so.
Yeah. If you're a Batman fan and you haven't played these games yet, what are you doing? Are you really a fan?
Yeah. Right. What are you even doing here, kid?
Yeah, right. All right. So, I mean, if I had to give this game a rating, I would say for when I first played it, I would have given this game a 9. Being that it's 2025, I'm going to give this game a 7.5.
Okay.
It's still a great game. It's still very, very, very playable today. But like I said in the beginning, it's just I respect where the game where this style of game came from, which is here, but it doesn't hold a candle to what we have today.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we came such a long way in such a short amount of time.
Yep.
With this game style, that it's, again, I respect where it came from. I love where it started, but it is difficult to play after you've played the others.
Yes, sir.
But all right. Thank you so much for joining me, dude. I had a blast talking about this with you. I'm so glad we were able to finally get together and do it.
Dude, yeah, so did I. I always love talking games with you, especially a game as heartwarming as Batman. It was always a phenomenal time with you, Rob. Thank you.
Hell yeah, buddy. I appreciate that. Before we hop off of here, do you have any shout outs, any drops you want to say anywhere anybody can find you?
If you want to give me a follow on Instagram, my handle is at the loud guy in the room. I mainly just reshare people's reels that I find funny. If you're in the New York Island area or the Long Island area, and you have any construction equipment that need hydraulic work, hit me up at Dependable Hydraulic in Amityville, Long Island.
All right, buddy. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. I'm
brother.
glad you had some plugs. If you want to provide me
no
with those
problem.
links, I can put them in the description. But
I'll see what I can find for you.
all right. So anyway, for those of you who were tuning into this episode, I very much appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed our hot takes and our lively discussion about the Arkham Asylum game and some of the other shit that we talked about with the DC IP. But if you would like to talk more with me, you can find me on Instagram at @TheBardsOfGaming, or you can find me on Twitter or X at 2BardsOfGaming with the number 2, and you can find all links to my socials as well as my email and merchandise at thebardsofgamingpodcast.com. That being said, thank you all again so very much. I appreciate you all, love you, and have a great night. Bye.
Oh, yeah, man.